Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished participants. We resume with the next session of today. It's a pleasure for me to moderate this panel of experts. As you may know, the next session is going to be on collaborative approaches to address online harms. Just to let you know, my name is David Alamos. I'm the chief of the Parliamentary Engagement Office of the United Nations Office of Counterterrorism that we settled 3 years ago to work exclusively and basically with the parliamentarians and with member of parliaments, national parliaments, and parliamentary assemblies. And it's a double honor for me to be today here moderating this session. So we have been talking during these previous sessions yesterday and today about the importance of a multi-stakeholder approach in all these relevant matters. So I really think that we have now a session which absolutely exemplified this kind of approach. We have representatives from the national parliaments. We have also from the executive branch, also from the civil society. So I think these different angles and perspectives are absolutely needed to be discussed at the same time to come to common solutions. So I will, in the sake of time, I will go directly to the questions to our distinguished speakers, and I would be grateful if when you are taking the floor, please, if you can just briefly introduce yourself so that we are all familiar with your bio. So the first question I would like to address to Mr. Jordan Hatfield, the legal attaché of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and to Mr. Brendan Dowling, Australian Ambassador for Cyber Affairs and Critical Technology of Australia. So the first question is, please, this session focuses on collaborative approaches to address online harms. Mr. Hatfield and Mr. Dowling, what are the benefits of a multi-stakeholder approach to fight risk and harms in the online space? Please, if you could also provide concrete examples. Please, you have the floor.
All right. Good morning. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you also to the IGF and for the Kingdom for hosting such a wonderful event here. My name is Jordan Hatfield. I am the legal attaché for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Justice here at U.S. Embassy in Riyadh. And talking about multi-stakeholder approaches and collaborations, the Federal Bureau of Investigation handles both criminal and national security matters. So when we discuss national security matters in open forums, things become very complex and difficult to talk about things. So I'm going to shift to more of the criminal element right now, and specifically looking at child exploitation matters. I think that's probably one of the easiest things for us to discuss in an open forum. But looking back just contextually, the Federal Bureau of Investigation categorizes a lot of the threats that we're dealing with in this space as TTLs, or threat to lives. Those threat to lives might be an imminent threat, an imminent attack, violent extremism. It might also be a specific threat against a child or an adult due to a domestic dispute, also due to online harms. And so specifically looking at that criminal element and the crimes against children or child exploitation realm, looking at producers of child sexual abuse material across the board and discussing what does that sort of stakeholder approach look like. The FBI works in two kind of novel ways that are unique, but has plenty of international partners that we work alongside to kind of accomplish this goal. The first thing that we have is a Violent Crimes Against Children International Task Force. This task force is law enforcement led, but is open to law enforcement. It's open to industry. It's also open to prosecutors across the globe. So there's over 70 nations that have been represented on this task force. The focus is that every single year, there'll be a week-long operational meeting somewhere in the world different place every single year to be able to discuss new operational concerns, new challenges in the realms of end-to-end encryption, also looking at online harm. The long-term goal in this is to develop better relationships amongst law enforcement and prosecutors so that we can discuss sort of the latest and greatest complexities with the work that we do. Part of this development or part of this task force is that on an annual basis, there's a month-long training for new additions to this task force. So you have prosecutors, you have law enforcement officers going through 4 weeks in the United States, seeing the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, getting time at NCMEC, getting time with other elements inside the United States, some of our regional teams as well, to better understand the challenges that we all face. It could be a small local regional sheriff's department in a small rural community in the United States, or it could be something happening in the kingdom here. It could be something happening into a major city anywhere around the world. And the challenge could be the same because we cannot get access to something that law enforcement or prosecutors or justice departments have legal authority to access. So it's an ongoing complexity. The second thing, and I'll end on this, is that we participate in Interpol specialist groups for crimes against children. In France, every single year, this is a huge opportunity, week-long event to develop relationships with other law enforcement partners, other members of the industry, tech industry, electronic service providers. It's tip of the spear conversations and an open dialogue, but also an opportunity to have those sort of more sensitive conversations behind closed doors. So success in this realm for us right now and the way that we try to approach it has to look collaborative. And we try to do as much as we can to open our doors so that other folks and other nations can learn from our challenges as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hatfield, for the vision on the experience of the FBI and how are you proceeding with this multi-stakeholder approach, also working together with others. So please now, Ambassador Mr. Dowling, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I'm the Australian Ambassador for Cyber Affairs and Critical Technology, and it's wonderful to be here with all of you today. Australia has been quite active in addressing online harms. We've been very active in passing legislation that drives greater accountability for social media platforms, for technology platforms to take more serious action to address online harms. That has all been driven by a multi-stakeholder approach. We were the first country in the world to establish an e-safety commission. The driver for that was community concern about cyberbullying, about the harms that our children were being exposed to through issues around online grooming, around abuse of children online. So it was driven not by government imposing a top-down solution, but by a sense of concern by our community, by civil society, by children's rights groups, by other advocates to say, we need government, we need our parliament to take more action to address the spread of online harm. So we've always come at this from a multi-stakeholder approach. We've always applied legislation to address online harms through a parliamentary review process subject to judicial review. We've always sought to design legislation in consultation with industry, but our parliament has been driven to act by that sense of concern from our community that we've seen this enormous proliferation of child abuse material online. We've seen terrorist groups seeking to radicalize our young people online. We've seen cyberbullying spread rife through our schools. So there has been a sense that parliaments and governments need to act to drive more accountability because, let's face it, technology platforms will not do that by themselves. They've had 20 years of expectations of addressing online harms, which they have failed to take seriously. They've prioritized commercial interests over community safety and well-being. So there has been a strong push by the Australian people to say, this is an area where governments need to act, where parliaments need to act. We need to do it in a sensible, considered way. We need to engage a range of stakeholders. We need to engage industry, but it is an area where governments do need to act.
Thank you very much, Excellency. It's very important, as you said, the collaboration between Parliament and government. We need to be accountable and to respond together to these kind of threats that we are exposed to. And yeah, let me now move forward and pose a question to Mr. Rashnet Sain. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing the Singh. Okay. Chief Executive Officer of the APNIC Foundation. So, Mr. Singh, the APNIC Foundation advocates for a global, open, stable, and secure internet. How can members of Parliament contribute to this vision? What collaborative approach would you recommend for parliamentarians to take? Please.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to the organizers, and it's great to be here in Saudi Arabia as well. So my organization, we invest in internet and digital development across 56 economies in the Asia-Pacific region. We come from technical roots, so that gives us a bit of credibility, when it comes to the technical nature of the internet, on what we talk about and why we talk about what we do. In terms of the question itself, I think we can all appreciate that the internet over the last 30, maybe close to 40 years now, has completely transformed humankind. You've seen the positive benefits of the internet across the world. One of the reasons that's been the case is because the internet is open and it's interoperable, which means you can build anything you want and you can connect to the internet and you can sell your services or your application or whatever it may be to anyone else in the world. Theoretically, at least anyway. And so what that of course allows is creativity, it allows innovation, it allows all these technology companies and non-technology companies to do what they're able to do with the internet. When I see a lot of people in this room right now busy on their phones, you are able to do that because the internet is there allowing you to do what you're doing on your phone, right? That brings me to one of the concerns that I have when it comes to how parliamentarians and policymakers look at what the internet is. I think you also have to be very clear on what the internet is not. And what I mean by that is that the internet itself is the core infrastructure that makes all this happen. Applications and services, the things that people use on the internet, are a different thing. And I think too often we conflate the two. When regulation or policies are put in place, the implications of what that will do to the core internet infrastructure are not taken into account. So if there's one message I would give to parliamentarians and policymakers, consider the implications of what you're trying to regulate or not trying to regulate. Things like app, for example, AI is a big thing these days, right? But fundamentally, AI is an application that works over the internet. There's nothing more than that. If the internet infrastructure that exists around the world, the core global internet infrastructure doesn't exist, none of that's going to work. So when you do consider, how you look at legislation or how you develop legislation, I think it's very important to consider what exactly are you trying to legislate? Is it the apps or the platforms or what runs over the internet? Or are you also potentially impacting the internet itself? So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for your intervention and for highlighting the importance of being very precise with the development of the legislation that has to be furthermore implemented by everybody. So let me now move on. I would like to give now the floor to Mrs. Nijat Haddad. She's the member of the Oversight Board. And the question is, please, the Oversight Board plays an important role on Meta social media platform. How do you collaborate with other stakeholder groups to guarantee a safer online space? Please, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you so much. For folks, if you don't know about the Oversight Board, it's a very unique body, the first of its own experience that basically Meta tried doing it. And I'm very proud to say that we actually have become an institution over the last 4 years. We were established in 2020, and the idea was to have an independent body which can independently hold Meta accountable on their content moderation decisions. So users can actually appeal to us against the Meta's decision on leaving up leaving up content or removing content. And what we do as a board is basically select the most relevant cases from around the world. Our main focus is basically centralizing human rights framework while we decide on cases, and also on users' right, like protecting users' right by actively engaging with stakeholders through appeals and public comments. And so far, we have received 10,000 comments on the cases that we have selected. We receive these comments, we deliberate, we process them, and then we deliberate on our cases. One of the examples just recently is the case that we decided is over the phrase on river to the sea, which was basically users around the world had this complaint that it was over enforced on Meta platforms, and we looked into it, and we received 2,000 comments just for that one particular case. I think the comment process and engaging with stakeholders around the world basically give us an opportunity to engage with diverse groups of people, but also with stakeholders in civil society, that if they cannot reach out to the tech platforms themselves directly, they can reach out to this third body, which is independent and which has an authority of binding decisions over Meta. But I would also say that one of the very important feature of our work is not only independence but transparency as well. What we do, we actually share with the world. They can also hold us accountable, that if you are the independent oversight body, how you are holding Meta accountable. And we do this through our reports, the performance on our decisions, and the implementation of how Meta is actually implementing on our decisions. I would also say that the body is also interesting in a way that the power concentration around tackling online harms is not only with the platform, and it's not only with the government. It should not be. There should be other stakeholders also who have a say and who can engage with the diverse groups like civil society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Nijat, and that for your intervention, how important it is really to have all the visions from law enforcement, from civil society, government, an independent body that is able to monitor and to oversight the platforms and the work. So with that, and we have received many comments on the importance of legislation, how important it is that the development of legislation should be accurate and should be precise specifically, and count on the comments of those that are basically facing some of the challenges in its implementation. So it's for me an honor now to move ahead and to give the floor to members of the parliament, to Her Excellency Uhud Al-Shehail, Member of Parliament from the Saudi Shura Council, and also to Her Excellency Madam Jihad Abdullah Al-Fahed, Second Deputy Speaker of the Shura Council of Bahrain. Excellencies, as members of Parliament, I would like to ask you, what are you confronted with when wanting to address online harms in the digital space, like, for example, during the legislative procedures? And also, what support would you like to see from the private sector, the technical community, civil society, and the government on the work that you advance? Please, Excellency, Madam Al-Shehail, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. It is an honor and privilege to be participating today in this session. It is such an important session, and I would like to welcome you to Riyadh. The rapid evolution of technology brings with it a lot of benefits, but also brings different forms of what does harm mean. And the starting point, I do believe, as a parliament member, is what does online harm mean? Because we keep talking about it, but we really don't know, because as technology develops, those forms and those harms keep developing. So our understanding of harm keeps changing from criminal to ethical, from social, different backgrounds they are affected. So going back to 2007, when the Shura Council first proposed a law that was concentrated on online crimes, the anti-cyber crime law. It was approved, but at that time it focused more on illegal act. And the whole purpose of it was providing and creating a secure, protected society. As time developed and technology and more interaction happened, more harms started to come on the surface, local and international. So this brings us to that different stakeholders have different perspectives and understanding of what constitutes harm. It is such a simple question, but yet the consequences of it are very complex. So if we can share a common understanding, it will help us in creating goals that we can actually achieve, that are practical and effective. Yesterday, they were talking about the goals that we didn't even reach 20% of the goals that we hope to reach. The second challenge we are always faced with is balancing rights. There's a debate about it, but as a member of the parliament, I do believe that we have a role to ensure that all executive institutions do understand and are aligned in making the digital space a safer space that does respect human digital rights. So when looking at privacy, sometimes it does collide with security. And balancing those rights, sometimes the consequences do interfere with each other. And looking at the digital world, it's related in all aspects of our life. The third challenge that we are faced with is innovation. Innovation not from a technological point of view, but innovation in communicating with different stakeholders, also finding innovative solutions. And also education. Education has proved in many fields and in all fields of our life that it is a successful tool. So doing research and also having educational campaigns that does equip our civilians and citizens with tools that they can have and navigate this digital world to make it a safer place. I do believe that having a better communication, that's why I said in the beginning, I am so honored to be participating in this session because it is a very important topic that affects all segments of society, from politicians to citizens to children, different kinds of harm also, from legal to psychological. So thank you for the time. I think I'm like on time. I give the mic back to you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Of course, you are on time. And thank you very much for the intervention. Thank you very much for also addressing the issue of the importance of education. I think it's a critical issue on this topic, in many topics, but especially in this topic, which is really like without education, we will be absolutely exposed to all the threats online. So let me now move ahead and give the floor to Her Excellency, Madame Jahat Abdullah. Al-Tahel, please, you have the floor.
شكرا جزيلا. I'll speak in Arabic, if you don't mind. Yeah. أشكركم على هذه الدعوة الكريمة لحضور هذا المنتدى الهام في عاصمة العرب الكبرى الرياض. فشكرا جزيلا على هذه الدعوة. أعرفكم عن نفسي، جهاد الفاضل، النائب الثاني لرئيس مجلس الشورى بمملكة البحرين، رئيسة الشبكة البرلمانية للسيدات البرلمانيات في أفريقيا والعالم العربي، ونائب رئيس الشبكة البرلمانية للأمن الغذائي في أفريقيا والعالم العربي. طبعا بالنسبة للتحديات التي يتم مواجهتها لمعالجة الأضرار عبر الإنترنت من خلال العمل التشريعي، أحب أن أشير على المستوى الوطني أن أساس الانطلاق لأي مبادرة تشريعية، سواء تقديم اقتراح بقانون أو سؤال برلماني، هو التشخيص الدقيق للضرر من أجل الحيلولة دون وجود تحديات أو محاولة للتصدي لها. أعتقد أن أبرز ما نواجهه كأعضاء في السلطة التشريعية هو أن تكون التشريعات العصرية المرتبطة بالنشاط على الإنترنت مواكبة بشكل مستمر للتطورات المتسارعة. وهذا يجعلنا نعتمد في هذا النوع من التشريعات على التفويض التشريعي، بمعنى أن ينص القانون على تفويض الجهة المنفذة له لإصدار القرارات الوزارية، آه، مقارنة طبعا يعني حتى تكون هناك مرونة في إصدار هذه القرارات، مقارنة بالتعديل التشريعي. مثل ما تعرفون هذا يأخذ الدورة التشريعية، والتي قد تستغرق فترة متفاوتة وربما طويلة. كذلك نلاحظ في السنوات الماضية زيادة حالات الاحتيال الرقمي واختراق المعلومات، مما تطلب تعزيز الأمن الرقمي للأفراد وللجهات. والسلطة التشريعية في مملكة البحرين قد أقرت عدة تشريعات تنظم الحقوق الرقمية وتقنن استخدام التوقيع الإلكتروني، وهناك تشريعات عدة في هذا المجال. مجلس الشورى البحريني أيضا قدم اقتراح بقانون بشأن تنظيم استخدام الذكاء الاصطناعي، وجاري حاليا مراجعة صياغته في اللجان المختصة في مجلس النواب وفق الأطر القانونية والدستورية. ويعتبر مجلس الشورى البحريني أول برلمان عربي ومن أوائل البرلمانات في العالم الذي يوافق على هذا النوع من المبادرات التشريعية المرتبطة بالذكاء الاصطناعي. بالنسبة للشق الثاني الذي يتعلق بالدعم، أعتقد أن أكبر دعم نناله من الحكومة ومن الجهات الأخرى هو الالتزام في تطبيق القوانين، وخاصة القوانين المرتبطة بالفئات الاجتماعية الضعيفة مثل الأطفال وذوي الهمم، وذلك طبعا تفادي تعرضهم للاحتيال والتجنيد للأنشطة الإجرامية. أيضا بالنسبة للدعم المتوقع من الشركات التكنولوجية، فهو قيامها بمسؤولية كبرى للتصدي التقني للتهديدات العابرة للحدود والانتهاكات الرقمية، والتعاون بشكل أكبر في تطبيق القوانين الرقابية على منصاتهم الرقمية وضمان الامتثال للمعايير الأمنية. ومن الضروري أيضا أن تقوم هذه الجهات الفنية بتوفير استشارات تقنية وتوفير برامج تدريبية مخصصة للبرلمانيين لتعزيز فهمهم للقضايا التقنية، وتوفير تقارير وتحليلات دورية عن التهديدات الرقمية والتطورات التكنولوجية، حتى هذا يعني يساعد البرلمان في اتخاذ القرارات التشريعية المدروسة. أخيرا بالنسبة للدعم المتوقع من المجتمع المدني ووسائل الإعلام ومنصات التواصل الاجتماعي، أعتقد أن يجب عليهم أن يطلعوا بدور توعوي مسؤول بنشر الوعي الرقمي بين المواطنين وتعليمهم كيفية حماية بياناتهم الشخصية والتفاعل بشكل آمن على الإنترنت. شكرا.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your intervention and for sharing with us the work of the Shura Council of the Kingdom of Bahrain, and also for explaining the collaborative approach and the importance also to engage with the private sector. Of course, the support and the collaboration with the government, but also with the private sector to really have enough information to be accurate with the work that the Shura Council is advancing, and also the importance, sorry for that, but I completely agree with you, the importance of enhancing the capacities of everybody, including also members of parliament, to really understand all the details that have to be taken into consideration when developing legislation. And I would like to keep on asking you a second question, Excellency, because you have shared with us the work of the Shura Council of the Kingdom of Bahrain, but you also have another very important role, which is as a member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. As Parliamentary Assembly, and the work that the Parliamentary Assembly is advancing this topic is very important, especially Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, PAM, has gone through a very interesting and very productive actions with regard to this specific topic, including artificial intelligence, of course. And I would like to ask you, Excellency, how does the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean contribute to and take action in collaborative efforts to tackle online harms? Please.
طبعا برلمان البحر الأبيض المتوسط ومن خلال تعاونه مع مختلف المنظمات الدولية والحكومات والبرلمانات يعمل على وضع إطار موحد يعالج مواضيع إساءة استخدام الذكاء الاصطناعي وتكنولوجيا المعلومات والاتصالات مع ضمان بقائها أدوات لتحقيق التقدم الاجتماعي والاقتصادي والابتكار. أيضا يعمل برلمان البحر الأبيض المتوسط بدعم من مركزه للدراسات العالمية، يعمل بشكل وثيق مع البرلمانات الأعضاء والمنظمات الدولية الشريكة لصياغة سياسات واستراتيجيات مرنة لمنع وتخفيف أضرار الإنترنت. كذلك أنشأ برلمان البحر الأبيض المتوسط مرصد برلماني عالمي دائم للذكاء الاصطناعي وتكنولوجيا المعلومات والاتصالات، وهذا المرصد يعمل على نشر موجز يومي وأسبوعي مما يوفر لأعضائه وأيضا للمنظمات الشريكة اتجاهات مستجدة ومحدثة حول التطورات والتقدم المحرز في مجال الذكاء الاصطناعي وتكنولوجيا المعلومات والاتصالات.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Indeed, let me also just highlight that we are having, as the Office of Parliamentary Engagement of UNOCT, a fantastic alliance with the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. Indeed, in December this year, let me share with you that the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean became the presidency and the chair of the coordination mechanism of parliamentary assemblies that we are having on issues related to the prevention and countering terrorism. And this specific topic is one of the priorities that has been identified by the 17th Parliamentary Assembly that are member or participating in the mechanism. And we have the honor to have Pam with us as the chair with an excellent experience in this topic. So let me, let me now open the floor to all the distinguished participants. And please, if you have questions, please just introduce yourself very briefly, please, and then pose the question. So I think we have 3 questions in this part of the room. Thank you.
السلام عليكم. Sorry I speak in Arabic if you don't mind. اليوم بسبب التحول الرقمي أصبحت التكنولوجيا مفتوحة للجميع، وهذا بالطبع يشجع على الابتكار والمنافسة والإنتاجية والشفافية، ويهدد الخصوصية في نفس الوقت. يعني احنا نتكلم عن برايفسي في يهددها واختفاء بعض المهن، يعني بعض المهن في دول كثيرة سوف تختفي، ويهدد الأطفال الذين أصبحوا يعشقون التكنولوجيا واللعب في الأجهزة الإلكترونية. مع هذه الأجهزة الحديثة ما هي التشريعات الممكنة لحماية المجتمع والأطفال بشكل خاص؟ بالأخص احنا نتكلم عن اليوم احنا عالم نتطور، عالم في AI. وشكرا.
My name is Yaqub Yusuf, Council of Representatives of Kingdom of Bahrain. In light of UNESCO orientation to literacy by adopting education strategy in early childhood and providing the necessary support and training of the old people, today the international gathering suffers from digital literacy. It is considered specifically a kind of damage on humanity. The question is how can the parliamentary community address this type of damage and achieve the balance between innovation and the risk of digital space? Thank you.
Maybe we will take some of the questions and then I can give the floor to the distinguished experts. Please.
Bonjour, je suis Joana Lima du Parlement portugais et je suis aussi présidente du Forum des femmes de parlementaires d'APM. C'est un honneur pour moi de m'adresser à vous aujourd'hui comme présidente du Forum des femmes parlementaires de l'Assemblée parlementaire de Méditerranée sur la question des opportunités et des défis pour les femmes liés au développement du domaine numérique. Saviez-vous que sur les 2,7 milliards de personnes qui n'ont pas accès à Internet, la majorité sont les femmes et les filles? Les hommes ont 21% plus de chances d'être en ligne que les femmes, un chiffre qui atteint 52% dans les pays de moins développés. Ces inégalités flagrantes soulignent l'urgence de combler le fossé numérique entre les genres. Alors que nous sommes avant-garde d'une révolution technologique, il est impératif de veiller à ce que personne ne soit laissé derrière, en particulier les femmes qui continuent de se heurter à des obstacles systémiques, y compris dans l'ère numérique. En tant que législateurs et décideurs politiques, nous devons relever ces défis. Si je pense aux femmes dans les contextes ruraux, dont on s'est beaucoup occupé de l'APM, l'expansion de l'infrastructure numérique et la subvention de l'accès à l'Internet sont des étapes cruciales. Nous devons également demander des comptes aux entreprises technologiques pour parvenir à créer des environnements en ligne plus sûrs où les femmes puissent interagir virtuellement sans crainte. Encourager davantage de filles et de jeunes femmes à rejoindre le secteur des technologies pourrait accélérer le développement de technologies sensibles au genre. Cela pourrait également ouvrir de nouvelles perspectives de carrière pour les femmes dans les domaines des technologies, d'information et de communication et au-delà. Ces déséquilibres et ces abus ne nuisent pas seulement aux femmes, mais affaiblissent également des systèmes démocratiques et la croissance socio-économique. L'APM a reconnu la gravité de ces menaces et a pris des mesures décisives pour y faire face. Par son forum des femmes parlementaires, l'APM travaille sans relâche pour lutter contre les abus en ligne fondés sur les genres et plaider en faveur de garanties plus solides pour protéger les femmes dans l'espace numérique. L'avenir de la gouvernance de l'Internet n'est pas seulement une question d'innovation, c'est une question de représentation, d'équité et d'autonomisation. Collaborons pour un avenir numérique inclusif où chaque femme, qu'elle soit dans une métropole ou un village isolé, puisse s'épanouir sans crainte. Ces thèmes représentent une priorité pour les activités du Forum des femmes pour le 2025-2026 et je vous invite pour la contribuer aux travaux de l'APM. Pour la prochaine 2025 et 2026, la présidente est Mariam Bintenaya des Émirats arabes unis. Merci beaucoup et j'aimerais entendre votre commentaire pour le papier de femmes dans l'intelligence artificielle. Beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Please, yeah, next questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Khalid Mansour. I am a member of Meta Oversight Board. I will just start with a personal note because of the last speaker. As an Arab man, I'm very proud that the two representatives of parliaments from this region are women. We have come a long way. It's a pleasure to see you sitting and speaking to us. Now, coming to the hard part, because my question is also to you and to other people in the panel, which is how can you guarantee that you put legislations to fight harm? I'm not talking about crime, but to fight harm with a good definition, as Your Excellency have said, without curtailing freedom of expression, without curtailing the rights of people to express themselves, without a definition of harm that not only governments can decide on, but also other stakeholders. How can you guarantee that this definition is actually participated in by, as Your Excellency said as well, civilians and citizens, by everybody? Because this is the fear of the civil society, that anti-cybercrime laws, the cybercrime treaty that's being internationally negotiated, work by the FBI and others would actually curtail the rights of people to express themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you for all panelists for the very nice talks about harms. My question more a little bit technically for Mr. Jordan, maybe Hadfield or Mr. Dowling or Singh, or anybody can answer, please. Agencies and governments around the world are working hard to ensure safety and security of people and agencies. But on the other side, we have the bad guys. Really, they are using also AI to harms. We know the big companies are using AI to protect cybersecurity and others. So, and they are working the dark side. Nobody almost know what they are doing there. The question is, how will the harms will be even? I think it will be even worse and bigger, like deepfake and other IT apps. In the future, I think we will not be able to distinguish between reality and the real things and not real things. So I wonder how to fight such very important and difficult crimes. Maybe some. So it's really, I think, a tough task. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we have one more question here, and then we move to the other. We also have. Okay, sorry.
Thank you very much, all panelists. عبد الوهاب يعقوبي، عضو البرلمان الجزائري عن الجزائريين المقيمين بالخارج، ومقرر الذكاء الاصطناعي في برلمان البحر المتوسط. في الحقيقة شوقني الزملاء والإخوة في البحرين إلى الحديث باللغة العربية، وغدا إن شاء الله ستكون مداخلتي بالإنجليزية. دكتورة جهاد تكلمت عن التشريع في ميدان الذكاء الاصطناعي. الحقيقة نحن نعيش واقع وتحديات وآفاق مستقبلية تتطلب مرونة كبيرة في ميدان تكنولوجيا المعلومات، بحيث كل يوم هناك ابتكارات جديدة. وفي الجزائر كذلك قدمت شخصيا اقتراح قانون لضبط استعمال الذكاء الاصطناعي، وهو قيد الدراسة في اللجنة القانونية، وأعتقد بأننا سنصوت على القانونين في وقت واحد. بقي أن ننسق يعني في إطار هذا التنسيق البرلماني بين مختلف التشريعات بعد تشريع البرلمان الأوروبي European Act. تعلمون بأنه في الولايات المتحدة هناك مجال مفتوح يعني وتوجه إلى عدم الضبط وترك الابتكار مفتوح. عندنا تحدي كذلك في الصين، هناك بعض التشريعات يعني غير منسقة، فيبقى التحدي كيف ننسق هذه التشريعات، طبعا بالمحافظة على المرونة التي يتطلبها هذا القطاع. وشكرا جزيلا لكم.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Agustina. I'm from Argentina and I work at the Chamber of Deputies. I will be asking my question in Spanish. Quería consultar primero a Oversight Board relacionado con por qué primero necesitan un Oversight Board si ya existe la Declaración Universal de los Derechos Humanos y las leyes en cada país. ¿Cómo hacen ese balance primero? eh, Porque en realidad no se debería necesitar un cuerpo que diga qué está bien y qué está mal, porque las leyes ya existen en cada país y son locales. Eso por un lado. Y por el otro lado, en relación a Australia, al Member of Parliament de Australia, quisiera saber en relación a la prohibición que hicieron a los menores de 16 años de edad de usar las plataformas de redes sociales, qué tipo de approach o qué tipo de interacción tuvieron con los jóvenes en esto, teniendo en cuenta que los jóvenes tienen derechos y también tienen derecho a acceder a las redes sociales. Bueno, ¿cómo lo tuvieron en cuenta o qué tipo de conversación tuvieron al menos con los jóvenes para resguardar sus derechos? Gracias.
Muchas gracias. I think we have one here. If you can give, please, the micro also there. So please.
Really, I just will capitalize on the same subject. I mean, we are on internet. We work on borderless countries. In the old days, we used to protect our country, as the lady from Argentina said. We used to protect our society through the borders. We manage that. Today, everything is run across border. So the question is, what is the role of the companies in protecting each society, and how would they know the values of each society to protect and the value of the other society, which we assume are wrong, or the other society are not wrong? So really there should be a forum or standard or an organization or a body to help each country with those companies to protect its community from what we believe as an ill information to our community, which is not an ill information for the other community. It is a difficult situation, but I think each one of us here as parliamentarians, we have a responsibility to protecting our community, and maybe the companies or the representative of the companies here could really answer that question, how we can work with them to protect our society and community.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you so much. I do have comment, but my Arab colleague encouraged me to address it in Arabic. So please, I will address it in Arabic. اسمي عبد الرحمن الحربي، عضو مجلس الشورى السعودي. حقيقة أشكر جميع المتحدثين، كانت حلقة النقاش يعني جدا جدا ممتازة ومفيدة لنا. أنا لدي بس تعليق فقط أود أن أنوه عليه، أن حكومة المملكة العربية السعودية أطلقت مؤخرا مبادرتين لحماية الطفل في الأمن السبراني ولتمكين المرأة أيضا في مجال الأمن السبراني، وآخر ما أعلن عنها في شهر أكتوبر الماضي، وقد انضمت إليها دول عالمية كثيرة. وأشجع زملائي الحاضرين هنا سواء البرلمانيين أو الخبراء للانضمام إلى تلك المبادرتين. وتلك المبادرتين تحمل اسم ولي العهد السعودي الأمير محمد بن سلمان، وجميعنا فخورين بتلك المبادرتين. وقد يكون مثل ما تفضلوا المتحدثين أن الطفل والمرأة قد يكونوا أضعف في يعني العوامل زي ما تقول في مجال الأمن السبراني. الإشادة الثانية والإحاطة الثانية أيضا المملكة العربية السعودية، وتطرق بعض الزملاء إلى موضوع محاربة الإرهاب واستخدام الأونلاين أو غير ذا. أيضا لدينا مبادرة عالمية من خلال مركز اعتدال معني بمكافحة الإرهاب وإزالة جميع المواد المضرة التي تتعلق بالإرهاب على جميع وسائل السوشيال ميديا. شكرا للجميع والسلام عليكم.
Thank you very much. I think we have another question there.
Merci beaucoup. Moi, je suis Bara Julien du Cameroun. Je suis député à l'Assemblée nationale. Et je voudrais remercier avant tout l'IGF pour cette organisation importante qui réunit et le gouvernement et les parlementaires pour parler n'est-ce pas, de l'IAI. C'est une très, très bonne chose. Nous savons qu'il y a l'évolution très rapide de la technologie, mais cependant, nous avons quand même des craintes. Cette crainte, c'est le chômage en général. Aujourd'hui, on aura de moins en moins de conducteurs de train, on aura de moins en moins de gens qui vont faire les entretiens et autres, parce que tout sera donné, n'est-ce pas, à l'IAI. Pensons quand même au chômage futur. C'est ma question.
Thank you very much. Please, yeah.
Thank you. I am Senator Shoeba Falabi Salisu. I'm from Nigeria and the Chairman Senate Committee on ICT and Cybersecurity. Thank you for the very insightful perspective you have shared. I have two questions, particularly for the oversight organization. Apart from the issue of content moderation, which is a problem globally, two things are specific to Africa that are concerning. First, about the content moderation itself. What you consider to be less harmful in the Western world, sometimes such publication is harmful in Africa. And therefore, what will pass the test of harmlessness in Europe or America may not pass the test of harmlessness when it comes to Africa. So that's one concern we'd like you to address. The second concern is also about transparency of the algorithm. Again, we do believe sometimes that some of the big technology companies, they do not operate with the same standard they operate in their home countries when they come to Africa. So how do you hold them accountable? And we also want to be sure that your oversight function as well takes cognizance of the nuances, of the values, of the culture, of the requirements that are specific to African environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have one more question.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. معكم عبد الحق إبراهيمي، عضو مجلس الأمة الجزائري، عضو اللجنة القانونية، وكذا مقرر المجموعة البرلمانية الأحرار بمجلس الأمة الجزائري. أول شيء أشكر الإخوة السعوديين على التنظيم الرائع لهذه التظاهرة، والقائمين كذلك على ال IGF على التنظيم الرائع والمنسق هذا طيلة الثلاث أيام الماضية لحد الساعة. أما بعد أريد أن أحث زملائي وأصدقائي البرلمانيين المتواجدين الآن في استعمال الدبلوماسية البرلمانية من أجل حث الدول المتطورة وكذا الجهات العالمية من أجل ترقية الإنترنت في بلداننا العربية والإفريقية على حد سواء، لأننا نرى صعوبة الولوج للإنترنت، عدم التغطية الكافية للإنترنت لمواطني هذه الدول، وبالتالي استعمال الدبلوماسية البرلمانية في هذا المجال هو جيد جدا. وكذلك يجب علينا كأعضاء برلمانات عربية وإفريقية سن قوانين من أجل حماية مستعملي الإنترنت كجهات أو أشخاص، من أجل حمايتهم من كما تعلمون جميعا الهجمات السبرانية التي تقع على المواقع والتي ممكن أن نستطيع نحمي بها بيانات والمعطيات الشخصية للمستعملين. وكذلك البرلمانات لها دور كبير في التشريع وسن قوانين، يجب سن قوانين كما قال زميلي في المجلس الشعبي الوطني قبل قليل. نحن بالجزائر عندنا مقترحات قوانين في اللجنة القانونية من أجل في هذا السياق. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we have any other question. Yeah, I think there is one more. And then I will give the floor to the expert, please.
Merci. Je suis Alijana Toussaliou Arekpa du Parlement de la République du Bénin. Je suis la coordinatrice des parlementaires pour le réseau du numérique et de l'identification des personnes. Et ma question va à l'endroit de compléter la question de l'honorable du Cameroun qui a soulevé les inquiétudes par rapport à la perte des métiers et du fait de l'intelligence artificielle. Alors, à côté de cette inquiétude, il y a également, en ce qui nous concerne en Afrique, la pauvreté qui marque une fracture entre les autres États, c'est-à-dire l'Europe et nous autres en Afrique. Alors, comment adresser cette question pour que quand même on puisse juguler la fracture entre le sud et le nord. Merci.
Thank you very much. If I may, then I would like to give back the floor to the distinguished speakers so that we have maybe a couple of minutes, each of you, please, to respond to the question that you have been addressed with. So I would like to start with Her Excellency Ohud Al-Shehail, member of the Parliament from the Shura Council of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Please.
There were two maybe issues that I would like to address. Number one was the education question, and number two was, thank you for the question, because it's a very passionate topic that I do also study, and that's what my specialty. Guarantees, to be very honest, there are no guarantees in life, okay? But when we talk about internet, it is a never-ending evolution. At the same time, we also have to be on the same mode of being in a never-ending evaluation. We always have to be in dialogues that are in different fields and sectors to have a very open, like being very open and honest, just like as I said, there are no guarantees. But at the same time, having this balance of when a certain law interferes with another, or when local laws interfere with international laws, I do always remember there's a saying, I'm being very local here, but the Prophet says, your freedom stops when the freedom of others start. And this is, I think, where our motto comes from when we talk about freedom of expression and the guarantees of having the rights online. Talking about education, we do have to invest more in education and not just in research but understanding it. Because to be honest, like I could see a lot of comments that really thinks differently about AI or thinks differently about governance, because our backgrounds does affect us. So investing in awareness and investing also, our kids have different views about artificial intelligence than we do. We think that artificial, maybe I'm being very naive here, but it's going to take our jobs. So in some cases, it is going to open other jobs. I talked to one of the youth kids, and I was telling him, why don't you get into artificial intelligence? And he said, why do I have to study it? I don't have, we look differently at it. I mean, like 10 years ago, studying artificial intelligence was the new thing. They look at it as a regular thing. So we have to think, not for today, but like 10 years ahead of us. And it's also very hard to have a balanced policy that regulates and security and regulates societies and thinking about harm, at the same time giving space and having it an open spectrum for all citizens to give their opinion. So it is very layered, but at the same time very simple. And we have to look at it from a very balanced way, that education and media interferes with each other. So I hope I didn't exceed my time.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Let me now give the floor, please, to Her Excellency, Madam Jahat Abdullah Al-Fahid, the second Deputy Speaker of the Shura Council of the Kingdom of Bahrain. Please.
شكرا جزيلا. طبعا بالنسبة للتحديات التي يعني تواجه أو لنضمن كيفية حماية السيدات كما سألت الزميلة من البرتغال، أعتقد إحنا كمشرعين يجب علينا تحديث التشريعات لنواكب كما ذكرت في البداية بالتطور المتسارع للإنترنت. وأيضا يعني هناك لابد أن تكون شراكة ما بين شراكة وتعاون بناء بين البرلمان والحكومة والقطاع الخاص والمجتمع المدني حتى نحقق بيئة رقمية آمنة و يعني مواتية للنمو لأن من خلال بناء قدرات برلمانية قوية في المجال الرقمي يمكننا ضمان تشكيل السياسات الرقمية بشكل يساهم في تطوير بيئة تشريعية قادرة على حماية حقوق المواطنين إن كانوا نساء إن كانوا أطفال أو ذوي الهمم أو أي يعني مواطن آخر خاصة في هذا العصر الرقمي المتسارع. أيضا بخصوص كيفية سؤال الزميل من الجزائر أعتقد عن توحيد التشريع. أيوة أعتقد أن من يعني من المناسب إنشاء شبكة برلمانية دولية معنية بكل ما يرتبط بحوكمة الإنترنت والأمن السيبراني ويمكن أن تحال توصيات المنتدى المرتبطة بالاختصاصات البرلمانية لهذه الشبكة وحتى تتخذ مسارها المناسب بالإجراءات التشريعية لكل بلد على حدة. ونقطة أخيرة أعتقد أيضا يجب علينا كذلك تشديد العقوبات في تشريعاتنا ضد الاستخدامات المسيئة والخطرة للإنترنت المظلم وخاصة الجرائم المرتبطة بآفة المخدرات وغسيل الأموال وغيرها.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Let me now please give the floor to Mr. Jordan Hatfield, the legal attaché of FBI, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. Wonderful question. Really thought-provoking questions from everyone. From an FBI standpoint, when we look at investigatively at anything that comes our way, a lead, an investigative lead, a threat that we hear about, we want to know what is real, what is dis or misinformation, what might be part of a larger narrative for a threat, or what is a threat. And so you have to be able to define those things as what is an online harm, but what is a threat? What is considered threat to life to a child or threat to life to a city? You mentioned deep fakes. You mentioned generative imagery, which all of those things we've seen grow in the last couple of years. We're now seeing hoaxes on the rise. Not sure for many of you if this will cross the boundaries, but I remember being in grade school and someone would pull the fire alarm to be able to get out of classes. Today, you go to jail for that, and there's serious consequences. If you're an adult and if you're a juvenile, you're in trouble. So it's much easier for someone to pull a hoax or to have a phone call with a threat than it has ever been. And so the thing that we know is true is that the law, certainly in the United States, is evolving. And the evolution of those laws to be able to better provide our industry, but also our law enforcement with tools to be able to actually take law enforcement action, to help our prosecutors take prosecutorial action so that we can go after the real threats and not the fake ones. We're guided by, certainly within the FBI and our agents, by the Constitution, First Amendment freedoms. And so every single time we receive a threat, we have to put it through that lens of, does this violate some nature of, is it a First Amendment right? Is it a First Amendment freedom? Is it someone's freedom of expression or speech or religion or what it might be? Before we then move to the next level. When we discuss what that looks like, we discuss, should it be an investigation? Should it be a disruption because something has been violated? Or should it be a prevention activity? And I think all of those three things don't always necessarily end up in prosecution, in someone behind bars, and someone paying some sort of justice for some crime. Ideally, I think in our world, how law enforcement might be shifting in the future, we want to prevent as much crime as we can. So if we are able to recognize and identify an online harm that hasn't passed its way into actual criminal activity, we want to do whatever we can to prevent that before it does become a crime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hatfield. Let me now please give the floor to Mr. Singh from APNIC Foundation.
Thank you, and I echo my fellow panelists' comment that there's some great questions that came from the floor, and I wish we could sit here and debate a few of those, but I don't think we have that much time. Just a couple of things I would like to just pick on. There was mention about the need to bring greater diversity, not just in the tech space, but in society in general when it comes to women and the role they play. One of the bodies of work that my organization does is all about empowering women, particularly in the tech industry. We have a fairly substantial program that's been running in Southeast Asia for a number of years now. And to that end, I mean, I can talk about that, but I know we don't have much time. But if you're interested to know more, we have a session on that actually at 4:30 p.m. today in workshop room 1. And the title is Breaking Barriers, Empowering Women in Network Engineering. So I'd invite you to come and listen from people who are doing that work and see the difference that can be made. Second, there was talk about, how do we ensure that we get more females and perhaps gender diverse people as well online. One way to perhaps address that is trying to build safe spaces. There are social, cultural, and economic reasons that that cannot happen. So creating these safe spaces for them may be one way to approach it. And the last point I'd like to make, there was talk about, how they're global or multinational tech companies, and they are all over the world. We use their apps and services. But there's nothing stopping a local company from developing that either. That's the beauty of the open internet model. The multi-stakeholder model that's been used to develop that internet means that anyone can basically create any application or services. Whether it's successful or not, the market will decide. But one thing that I do see missing, and this is perhaps a message to the parliamentarians in the room and online, is that you should look at how your citizens can become creators and not just consumers of what's available on the internet. And to do that, you could look at how do you actually support a sustainable local digital ecosystem, not just depend on a foreign digital ecosystem so that you're just consuming stuff from overseas. That could be the way through innovation hubs, to getting education programs in place through tertiary institutions. Lots of ways to do it, but I'll just leave that as food for thought. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Let me now turn to Ambassador Dowling from Australia, please.
Thank you. Look, a lot of the questions went to balancing innovation and rights with measures that governments take to address online harms. I think because we're at the Internet Governance Forum, I want to underscore your point, Raj, that when we're talking about content issues, there is a sovereign right for governments to take measures to address online harms, but what we must do is preserve the technical underpinnings of the internet. So we need to separate these two issues and say content moderation, online harms is a national jurisdiction in consultation globally, but the global interoperability of the technical layer of the internet is something that we must preserve and not interfere with through national legislation. On how we strike that balance, it's difficult. It requires us to be considered, thoughtful, consultative, to work with civil society, to work with industry. What I would say is every new phase of digital technology, be it software, social media, AI, immediately we see bad actors utilize this technology to conduct harmful activity. And every new phase see women and girls targeted by malicious actors using this new technology. It's frustrating when we seem to be surprised by that. We see technology platforms developing AI tools and then saying, oh, turns out it is being used to generate abusive images of women online. We should know and expect, and we need to talk about safety by design at every phase of new technology, because we know how the technology will be misused and abused. We have seen this year, for the first time, a reduction in women participating in public life, in running for parliament, because they are subjected to so much abuse online. Our view is the idea that the technology industry and social media companies have been saying for many years, don't worry, we've got this, we're taking care of our users. They're not. They have failed abjectly for many years to have true accountability, to really prioritize safety by design, which is why we see governments like ours taking measures to better protect our people online. The balance needs to be struck to say our legislation must always prioritize human rights, must always prioritize privacy, must always be subject to the rule of law. There is a right way to do this, but the days of just accepting the digital world is a free-for-all or the Wild West are over. We need to be active in protecting our people online. As I said, it needs to be consultative. It needs to take into account the rights, it needs to take into account privacy. We are implementing a ban on social media accounts for under 16-year-olds. The question went to the consultation with youth. This has been a long-standing community concern that the documented and researched harms to children from social media have not been adequately addressed by social media companies. We now have a 12-month runway to develop how that tool will be developed and implemented. That will involve significant consultation and work on what the technical solutions are. I would say the responsibility through that legislation will be on the platforms to develop tools to limit use of social media accounts by children. It will not impact on the use of the internet for educational and other purposes. It is a big step. It's a world-leading step. It's not without controversy. It's not without difficulty in its design. But I think our movement on that issue comes from a sense of frustration that we have not seen adequate measures by technology platforms to protect the well-being of children online.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Let me turn now to Mrs. Nijatat from the Oversight Board. Please, you have the floor.
Yeah, there were two questions. One was related to why a platform company needs an oversight board when they are like universal laws. And I would say that any powerful institution or entity actually needs an oversight. We do have oversight bodies and committees in the parliament to keep check on government actions as well. And we do need these oversight bodies over internet companies and tech giants, that what they are exactly doing. We don't want a bunch of white dudes sitting in Silicon Valley deciding for the rest of the world. And if you look at decisions of oversight board, you will see that we actually have looked into the international human rights framework. That's our the central approach while we decide these cases. I think it's also important for us to know that while governments are legislating and initiating regulations around technology and tech platforms, let's just be honest, many governments are also departing from human rights framework. And it's important for us to kind of see how we can hold not only tech companies accountable, but governments as well. And that's, I'm saying, not as a member of oversight board, but as a civil society member working on digital rights in Pakistan. With regards to your question, Your Excellency, around context, I would say the board is a very diverse group of people. We have board member from Africa. Her name is Miss Afia. And if you look at the decisions of the board, they are from all regions. One very small example that maybe people sitting in the room will relate to, Meta reached out to us for a particular term, shaheed, which is an Arabic word, right? This is the most over-enforced word on the platform. And they reached out to us asking us, give us advice that how we can approach this particular terminology. And we all know, like I'm in Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh, in Saudi Arabia, the word shaheed we use in different ways. There are different contexts. So coming to your point of context, we actually deliberated on that particular issue for a year. and received comments from all over the world. And what we told Meta, that you should stop presuming that the word shaheed, when used to refer to a designated individual or unnamed members of designated organization, is always violating and ineligible for policy exceptions. So there is this context that maybe global north does not understand what word shaheed means. We do understand. That's what we told Meta to do, and they are actually implementing our recommendations. I will actually encourage parliamentarians sitting in the room to read the decisions that we have given, because there's so much nuance in there. It will not only help the parliamentarians while they are drafting their own laws, but also, while they are looking into, like, seeing the body and presuming that this is just the global north body. It's not. It's a very diverse body, and we are making all the efforts to hold this company accountable. And I feel that all other companies also need to have such kind of bodies. But Mr. Ambassador, I would like to really appreciate the e-safety commission, the work that Madam Julia has done, and also encouraged commissioners all over the world. She also really appreciate our work and all the work that we have done. One of our priority now is to look into the well-being of young people on the platform as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Nijat. I would like to say that we have the pleasure to count also in the room with the Speaker of the Parliament of Guinea. I would like to give him the floor, please.
Thank you so much. I know we are in the end of the session, but I don't want to take this opportunity to welcome His Excellency President of Kenya Parliament, and thank on behalf of our Shura Council Speaker, Dr. Abdullah Sheikh. I would like to welcome him and thank him for his attending. And I will pass a mic for him if you'd like to say some remarks, please.
French, ok, no problem. Je profite de l'occasion pour adresser mes salutations les plus respectueuses aux honorables membres du Parlement qui sont là, ainsi que les hautes autorités ici présentes. Et je suis le président du Parlement de Guinée. Je suis venu, comme les autres pays du monde, comme les autres parlementaires, apporter notre solidarité, apporter notre soutien au débat très pertinent qui se passe dans ce pays aujourd'hui, consacré à la gouvernance de l'Internet. Ce n'est plus un secret pour personne. L'Internet est devenu une nécessité sociale, une nécessité culturelle, une nécessité pour le développement économique et la modernisation du monde. Mais il est extrêmement important que la question de l'Internet soit débattue dans un cadre institutionnel approprié où tous les acteurs, à la fois les politiques, les multinationales, les parlementaires, ainsi que les représentants de la société civile et les médias, puissent chacun communier et apporter leur point de vue. Un seul mot aujourd'hui, la solidarité numérique est une alternative essentielle pour construire un monde globalement tourné vers des valeurs humaines. La solidarité numérique est un passage obligé pour permettre le développement équilibré du monde entier. Parce que sans solidarité numérique, le fossé entre les pays développés et les pays sous-développés va encore s'élargir. Et avec la technologie, les inégalités sont encore plus criardes. C'est pourquoi j'invite tous les hauts responsables ici représentés de nous investir dans un processus de régulation de l'Internet à travers des lois, les lois nationales, mais aussi des accords internationaux qui puissent garantir l'utilisation de l'Internet dans le respect des droits humains. Et pour terminer donc, je remercie et félicite les autorités saoudiennes pour l'opportunité donnée à mon pays pour venir apporter ses avis, ses idées à ce débat qui est extrêmement important pour un monde globalement résilient, pour un monde où les droits humains sont respectés. Je termine en disant tout simplement, l'Internet, c'est bien bon. D'ailleurs, c'est une obligation aujourd'hui pour un monde moderne, mais l'Internet doit être utilisé dans le respect des droits de l'homme. Donc, humaniser l'Internet, c'est ça qui puisse permettre au monde d'évoluer vers la prospérité partagée. Et je tiens à informer les pays développés, ceux qui ont une certaine percée technologique, convenons-en, le fossé entre les pays technologiquement développés et les pays moins avancés, tant qu'il se crée, le monde ne connaîtra pas la stabilité et la paix sociale. C'est pourquoi la solidarité numérique est le maître mot dont je suis porteur aujourd'hui au nom de tous les pays africains, au nom de tous les parlements africains. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your enlightening message. Absolutely. I would like, we are a bit above the schedule, so I would like just to very briefly conclude this distinguished panel of experts and the session. We'd like just to insist and to highlight how important it is really to have a multi-stakeholder approach, a collaborative approach, basically to address online harms. We have huge challenges ahead. We really need a whole of society and a whole of government approach now more than ever in these specific issues to ensure that we provide safety online. We need to take a special consideration, especially to the most vulnerable groups. We need to ensure that human rights is at the front of all the decisions and the actions that we are going to decide, basically. And we have to ensure access. It's very important. It has been said here, it has been said in previous sessions, so we need to ensure access to everybody in a safety environment, and we need to enhance education, we need to enhance capacities so that we are able to have a better scenario, a better access, and a better benefits of internet. And of course, this has to be done with precise and accurate laws. We have a very important role by members of parliament on these accurate laws that are able to be implemented, and that we are able also to have an oversight mechanism also to see how the implementation of the laws are. So with that, I would like to thank first the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for hosting this fantastic event here in this fantastic venue, and also to the Shura Council of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and to IGF, and of course, I would like to thank each of the distinguished and excellent speakers that have accompanied us during this panel, and to all of you for your intervention and question. Thank you very much, and have a very nice day.